get into the chaos. Super Mario Brothers is the first game series I've ever played. I think I played it back when I was a kid, like 3 years old. I think that might have been the first time I played. And I think it really was the very first Mario game that I played. That was my first video game, if I'm not mistaken. And all these years later, I'm still playing Mario and I still love the games. The Mario series is definitely one of my favorite gaming franchises. And because of that, it makes sense for me to do a top 10 list. You know, I played a lot of the Mario games. I think all of them actually at this point. So why not make a top 10 list finally? Now for this top 10 list, I'm only going to be including the mainline Mario series, no Mario Party, no Mario Kart, none of that. That can get its own list because like there's plenty of those out there, the Mario spin-offs. This one's just going to be for the main series. And another thing, I haven't played Super Mario Wonder yet, so that can't be on the list. When I do finally get to play it, you know, I'll post out there what ranking it would be. But for now, like I haven't played it, can't be ranked for me. So don't be wondering where that is on the list because I haven't played it, can't say. So yeah, with that being said, let's just see what my top 10 favorite Mario games are. Here at number 10, I have Super Mario World. This game was always fun for me to play as a kid, and I still love playing it to this day. Although I only really like playing through a few levels. I specifically like getting to the Cape Feather and then just flying through the stage. It's really just a fun power up to use. Like you have so much flying potential with this, and you also have invulnerability while you're flying and can make an earthquake, and it's just really cool. I also play to try to get to Star World so I can unlock the red Yoshi because I like using red Yoshi and blue Yoshi. I think these Yoshi look more appealing than the green Yoshi, to be honest. But it's more than just aesthetics, it's also the abilities they possess. The red Yoshi gets to spit fire whenever he eats a Koopa shell, regardless of what color it is. And the blue Yoshi gets to fly doing the same thing. Now the regular Yoshi has these abilities too, but he has to eat a specific Koopa shell. But yeah, other than that, I don't really play this game for too long. Not that the rest of the game is bad, I just don't really have too much of a desire to play through the whole game. I usually just like playing to my favorite parts. So that's why this game is only at number 10. Here at number 9, I have Super Mario Bros. DS. Just barely beating Super Mario World. Now, I like this game a little better than Super Mario World for a few reasons. One of them being the additional moves that Mario has to his moveset, like the wall jumping and the ground pound. Those are consistent moves in every 2D Mario game now, and it makes it a little harder to go back and play the old 2D Mario games. Especially the wall jump. The wall jump can just help you get to such higher places, do such cool movements, and also can even save you from falls sometimes. If you fall into a pit and there's a wall, you can bounce off and just save yourself. There's also the triple jump, which allows you to go higher than ever before while jumping, which also helps you get through stages faster and allows you to speed run the game a little better. I also think this game has some pretty cool powers. You got the Mega Mushroom, obviously the main selling point of the game. You can just get really large and just demolish everything, just take down the whole stage. It's pretty cool. You also got the not so great Mini Mushroom. It's not terrible, but the Mini Mushroom is basically just used to get into like secret areas. Although it can be fun to jump around because you're just kind of lightweight and just woo, just almost basically flying through the stage. And one of the best ones in my opinion is the Koopa Shell. It's really fun to use the Koopa Shell, and you can basically enter areas that normally you would need to hold the, Koopa Shell to use, but now you can you just all the Koopa shells. You can just knock down those blocks yourself and get in. It's fun to dash around in this thing. You also can block yourself from enemies hurting you just by ducking, so it's pretty cool. I also really like the levels in this game. This game has a lot of standout, awesome, fun, and unique levels. One major one being the final Bowser Castle that allows you to flip the entire castle around to traverse through it. Also, the game has some mini games you can play. Not the biggest highlight, but it's fun to mess around with sometimes. And it also has a versus mode, and I had lots of fun playing that when I was a kid, so that's cool too. Now here at number 8 we have New Super Mario Bros. Wii U, and I guess New Super Luigi U2. I think the deluxe version can go here too. I don't really know too much of the differences between them. I just remember playing Mario Bros. Wii U way more than the deluxe version. If I ever played it, I actually don't know if I played it. I feel like I remember playing it, but I don't know. But the point is, they're about the same game, so it would go in the same spot anyways. I like this one better than New Super Mario Bros. DS simply because of the multiplayer, to be honest. I know a lot of people don't like the multiplayer in Mario games, but for me, I just have a lot of fun with it. And it never really hindered me too much. I guess a lot of people don't have competent people to play with, but I never had too much problem playing with a group of people. Yeah, it's chaotic, but it's fun that way. And like I said, I can still get things accomplished. I also like the challenge mode. Challenge mode is really what sells it above New Super Mario Bros. DS for me. And even New Super Mario Bros. Wii, which isn't on the list, but I felt like I had to compare the two because it is a similar game. Like, obviously, New Super Mario Bros. Wii U was built kind of like off of New Super Mario Bros. Wii, so they're kind of in contention of each other. But yeah, for me, New Super Mario Bros. Wii U just seems like an overall upgrade to New Super Mario Bros. Wii. I like the power-ups a little better. Like, flying squirrel power-up is more enjoyable than the helicopter mushroom in my opinion. And then this game has the helicopter mushroom anyways. Again, it has the challenge mode. It has the Wii U gamepad, which I always enjoyed using to give that little boost to help the other players out. It's not much, but I don't know. For me, I just enjoyed it. And I even liked the fact that you could play your Mii characters. Again, nothing really that crazy. Like, it's not like they get new moveset or anything, but it's just enjoyable to see a character I made run through the Mario stages. I also really like the concept of the story. Now, it's not anything different from most Mario stories. Like, Bowser still comes in and kidnaps Peach, but this time around, Bowser throws Mario and the gang away from the castle and just takes over the castle itself. Now, that was a new kind of cool way to switch up the idea. Like, again, nothing completely game changing. Like, it's just a Mario game. The story's usually not going to be that great, but I feel like it would have been enough to make things a little more interesting if they had went with it. The problem with this and what holds this from going like high up on the list is that it didn't really add anything unique, and the stages are kind of similar to like all the other New Super Mario Bros. Stages for the most part. So like, yeah, you're away from the castle, but you still start in the grassy hill and like go through like the same exact layout as before. It would have been cool if you kind of did like reverse, like if the fiery stages were like the easier stages this time around. That would have been cool, but yeah, I still like this game a lot. Here at number 7, we have Super Mario 64. Now, this is probably going to sound crazy to people. Super Mario 64 being this low on a top 10 list. A lot of people think this is the greatest Mario game of all time, or at least, top 5 up in there. Yeah, this game is great, but for me, there's some things holding it back. For one, I always feel like the controls are too stiff for me. It could be a skill issue, but even still, the fact that I can't get it is obviously going to make it less enjoyable for me. Now, I'm not bashing the game itself, not saying it's any less of a great game, but for me, on my personal list, I'm obviously going to have to dock points for that. The other thing I don't really like about this game is the stars were a little too challenging to find and a little confusing. Nowadays, I know what all the stars are, but back then when I was playing this as a little kid, the few times I did, I basically had no idea what I was doing. I was basically just running around the stage aimlessly and run around the castle aimlessly for the most part. I remember most of my time being spent looking around the basement and Jolly Roger Bay. For some reason, I guess I just really like that stage. But the point is, the confusion with what to do just kind of knocked the game down for me a little bit. But on that same note, running around the castle just by itself is already fun enough. And so is running around the stages. In fact, all the stages are really fun. They are all so unique and memorable, and there's only probably 2 of them that aren't really that good. But I don't really need to say anything more about why this game is great. It's already a well-known fact that this game is great. Everyone else has praised it enough already. I can't really add anything more that people haven't already said. So let's just get to the next game. Alright, at number 6, I have Super Mario Sunshine. Now, I think this is going to be another pick that people wouldn't really agree with, especially putting it above Super Mario 64. As far as I can tell, Super Mario Sunshine is well liked by most of the Mario fan base, and then like other people don't like it. But I don't really think I've heard people liking this game more than Mario 64. But I like it more than Mario 64, and it's crazy to say that because I kind of just recently played this game to a large extent. I played it as a kid, but I could only get past like a few levels, and then the game broke and I never got it again until I was able to play it with the re-release of Super Mario 3D All-Stars. And that's why I finally completed the game. And I can say that I like this a little bit better than Mario 64. Now, what I like about this is the beach setting. It's really nice and relaxing, and it has a good mood, and somehow it still remains unique between all the stages. Like, you'll have one in a hotel, and then you'll have one out in a carnival. That's something that not many other Mario games can say they have. In fact, off the top of my head, I can't really think of any that have set theming throughout. I also like moving around with FLUDD. It's really fun and makes me want to go fast because I can just correct my jumps so easily. I know if I jump and miss time, I can easily just backtrack a little bit or move myself forwards to land onto the next platform. Another small point in Mario Sunshine's favor is the little story that they got going on. Again, it's nothing major, but for a Mario game, you know, it's something that's actually noticeable. Mario gets framed for doing something that he wasn't responsible for, and yeah, he's got to get punished for that. And you have a few cutscenes here and there, and you get introduced to Bowser Jr., who's not my favorite character, but still cool nonetheless. And the little power-ups that FLUDD gets are really fun to use too, especially the rocket one for me. Like, you can just platform in unique ways by utilizing this properly. I really love doing that. I also like the graphics of this game over Mario 64. Now, that probably doesn't seem like a fair comparison since this game came out a few years after Mario 64, so of course it's going to have better graphics. But I still think that should be a point in its favor regardless. Now, it's not like this game's that much better than Mario 64. There are still some things about Mario 64 that I like over this game. Like, I like how you can get to the stars easier. Like, you can pick what star you want basically out of order. In this game doesn't really have that. It's not that big of a deal, but it is, in my eyes, a way that makes Mario 64 a little easier to pick up and play, because you can just kind of like goof around and still make progress. Well, in this game, you kind of have to focus a little bit to make progress. But like I said, I just like the movement a little better, so I can just have more fun playing around in this game. But if I was gonna go complete either of the games, I would pick this one. Whew, yet another probably controversial pick. Here I have Mario Odyssey at number 5. Now, another game that people put at like the very top of the list, you know, greatest Mario game of all time. For me, it's a really big Mario game. It's not bad by any means, but I just like a few other Mario games a little better than this one. What this game got going for it, well, I can't really say much that hasn't already been said, you know. It's got great movement. You get to jump around in many different ways, perform many different tricks to get through the hub worlds in basically any way you choose. You know, this is like an open world Mario game, and there's plenty of Power Moons for you to collect. So that'll have you play this game for hours on end, longer than all the other games prior that were on this list. And that's something it's got going for it. And it won't get boring. There's usually new stuff every step of the way. This game also has a whole lot of captures you can do, like 58 in total, I think, which means there's a lot of variety. It's basically this game's forms of power-ups. And also the hub worlds you run through are really unique and fun. Some of them repeat old Mario locations, I guess, but the ones that do usually take a spin on it so that it feels fresh. Like Cascade Kingdom is a greeny plains area, like the World 1 of most Mario games. But this one has a prehistoric feel to it, which is something that Mario hasn't ever done before, I don't think. Also in an area that's usually done in Mario games, the desert area is frozen over, which is something you don't ever see mashed together in Mario games. you know, icy desert place. Deserts are usually the hot areas. And it also goes to nighttime, which is a setting you don't see in the Mario series a lot. Another thing this game has is the hats and costumes. You can buy a lot of hats and costumes, and that's like the first time Mario's ever been able to change his clothes, and it's pretty cool and unique, and it gives more variety than the game already has. You get to experiment with different outfits. It doesn't really add any gameplay elements, but it's cool to see nonetheless. The other thing this game has going for it is the story. It's probably the most in-depth that Mario has ever gotten in its mainline series, and it's got really awesome cutscenes with Bowser when you face up against him. That helps the story progress. Speaking of things looking good, obviously the graphics are really stellar for this game. Again, it's the newest Mario game. Most games update the graphics of Mario and his world, but I think this game took it to a whole new level. It's not just how New Super Mario Bros. Wii U looked. It just kind of like a nice gloss over it. No, this game looks like it has some nice detail to all the environments. But you probably heard all this stuff before. Everyone knows this is a great Mario game. Why do I only have it at number 5? Not that number 5 is a bad placing, but like I said, most people would probably have this number 1, number 2 best Mario games. But me personally, as cool as it is to have the capture mechanic, I like the traditional power-ups better, and most of the captures, they just didn't really do it for me. Not only are most of them just kind of gimmicky and have like a one-time use or like very minimal use, but the ones that are reused aren't really my favorites. Sure, there are some that I like the little birdie in the Bowser Kingdom and the tank, but other than a few more, they're just not really my cup of tea. And I know it's meaningless to have lives in video games nowadays, but it still kind of feels weird to not have them. Like, just dying and just losing a few coins. Which, I mean, it does hurt because you actually can use coins for stuff in this game now. But not having lives just makes it feel like everything's just so casual. And speaking of casual, a lot of the moons are casually grabbed. Like, I know you want to have lots of moons in different areas so people can play the game at their own pace, but some of these are way too easy to get. Like, sometimes you can just walk out into the open, it'll just be standing there. Heck, you can even just go to the store and buy them. You're having too much of a hard time finding a moon that's just standing out in the open, well, just go buy some at the store. Now, nothing I really said is a major problem for this game, but it is enough to knock it down under these next few games. Like this game here at number 4, Super Mario Maker 2. Now, I feel like in some ways you could say this game doesn't count because it's a game where you make your own Mario game, but at the same time, this Mario game has a story mode to it. So that, in my eyes, that's enough to count it. Maybe the old Super Mario Maker I wouldn't have counted, but since Super Mario Maker 2 has a story mode, I'm gonna count it. And as the game implies, and everybody already knows, this game main appeal is making your own Mario game. And I really love being able to craft my own stuff. I am a very creative person, so when I see a game where I can make my own stuff, sign me up for it. I love that. It's got a lot of stuff you can add to each level and a lot of different styles you can use. You can use 5 different types of Mario styles, one being the 3D world, and it's really cool to me. It makes so much sense for this style to be in there, but at the same time, like, I wouldn't even think about putting that in there. But it's there and it's really cool. But yeah, you get to pick up many different enemies, power-ups, and different items and stage layouts for each of these different game styles. Some of them which never appeared in the games before, like in the old Mario game, there was never a battleship course, and now they have that in there, so that's cool. Like redoing old stuff to make it fit into Mario Maker, that's really cool. If you're not very creative, or if you have a creative stump, this game might like hit a stopping point, just halt all momentum, and it just feels like you can't play it if you have like writer's block in your head or something. But like I said, this game has a story mode, and that's coming in to save the day for this game. This is kind of what puts it a little higher for me, because you get to play stages that were made by Nintendo themselves, and it feels like another new Super Mario Bros. Game, but with all the old styles combined and with new objectives. It's not always just get to the goal. Sometimes you gotta kill a certain amount of enemies. Sometimes you gotta get to the goal with a certain item. Like, it's all just new stuff that has never been done before. So it is like another new Super Mario Bros. Game, but more creative. And the creativity of the story mode kind of helps you get into your own creative mode. Like, it makes you more inspired to do other stuff. So if you get bored with creating your own levels, you can go in the story mode, play something that the game developers made, and then now you're inspired, you get back into making your own levels, and it can just be a whole cycle, and you can just play for hours and hours and hours and hours. It's literally a game that can never end as long as you have the creative potential. Here at number 3, we have Super Mario 64 DS. Now, I thought about putting these games in the same spot. That would free up more potential to talk about other Mario games. At the end of the day, these all basically the same game, but there's enough differences that I decided to separate the two. And for the simple fact that I would always pick Mario 64 DS over Mario 64, so I just didn't really feel like they should be in the same spot. Like, I definitely 100% like the DS version better than the 64 version. Why is that, you might ask? Well, there's a few key things that I like that make this game more enjoyable for me. One small thing that I like is the mini games. When you're not in the mood to play the main game, you can just jump over to the main games and have yourself a quite enjoyable time. Another thing might be a little controversial. The controls feel better to me. Now, a lot of people think the DS version, from what I can tell, I heard a lot of people say that the DS version doesn't feel right because of the D-pad. But for me, I never had a problem with the D-pad. The characters just don't feel as stiff in general while playing the game. I don't know why. I think the one major thing with the movement that I can definitely 100% guaranteed isn't just me just imagining things, is Mario jumping off walls. He can actually slide onto the wall, so it makes it easier to jump off walls, and you can time your jumping a little better. Now, again, you could say skill issue, but hey, I just like having that little simple sliding down the thing instead of trying to perfect exactly where to kick off the wall. It might feel a little more rewarding to do it in the old version, but I still like the simpler version better in the DS version. And the other things that are getting to be a little more major are the multiplayer mode in the DS version. Now, if you didn't have anyone to play with, this doesn't really add all that much, although you can still play by yourself. But the real fun is playing with a few friends. Like, back when I was a kid, I used to have so much fun playing with my brother and my friends. Like, just endless fun right here. Even though there's only a minimal amount of stages you can do, it's like only 4. I still had so much fun. So that was something high hitting for me. The other thing it has is new stages. The original version had 120 stars. The new version has 150 stars. So 30 extra stars to collect. That's a little more content for you. And a lot of the new stars come from new stages. Like this new area in the back of where the Peaches slide painting is. It's like a poisonous platforming stage that brings you to a giant Goomba as a boss. His name is Goomboss. And that leads into my main factor of why I like this game more playable characters. See, each of these new stages have a playable character to unlock. You can unlock Mario, Luigi, and Wario. And Mario's not technically the newcomer, even though you don't start as him. You start as the actual newcomer, Yoshi. And all of them play different from each other. And I love multiple playable characters in video games. That's a high point for me. It might sound like a downgrade in some regards, because now you have to, for certain power-ups, the old Mario 64, Mario would just transform into the set power-up for that stage, but now you have to go back and get the right character for the job. I can see that being a hindrance to some people, but for me, I like the different variety. And there's still a lot of ways to figure out how to collect the star without going back to pick up a different playable character. And then there's also just playing as Yoshi, who can be all the playable characters by finding the hats on the map. So, if you didn't want to go back, you could always stick to Yoshi and get the job done. But like I said, I just like the variety, so I like going back. Other than that, this game's just Mario 64. It has all the other great traits that Mario 64 had. But with the added benefits that I really enjoy, this game just had to be high on the list for me. Here at number 2, I have Super Mario 3D World. Now, this game is all types of fun for me. For starters, it's got multiple playable characters. And you know what I just said about the previous one? That's a high point for me. I love variety in video games. So that's already a high point going for it. This game also has a lot of content. Like a lot of content. It has a whole bunch of stages, a whole bunch of different worlds, and it's got a few different secrets in those worlds that make exploring the hub world just that tiny bit of fun. Not as fun as an actual 3D Mario game like Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, but it's enough to keep me interested to walk around sometimes. But that's not the main point. The main point is the stages. And like I said, the stages are really fun. There's a whole bunch of unique gimmicks in lots of different stages. Now, not every single one of them is as fun and as memorable as the others, but since there's a lot of content, it's okay for a few of them to be a dud. And yes, it's true that within that content, some of it's reused, but some of it is reused in a way that makes it more interesting to go through than the last time. So it's perfectly fine for it to be reused in that way. I'm on board with it. This game also has a unique aesthetic going for it. Not all the way through, not for every stage, but it's got enough unique variety in there to make it a fresh new take on the Mario genre as a whole, I would say. That's easier to see when you look at Super Mario Maker 2 and you take the 3D world aesthetic and try to combine it with the already existing Mario aesthetics. Like, you'll see that they don't quite overlap. Like, they kind of just have to say, oh yeah, this is the sky theme. It's not really a sky theme, it's more like a Wonder World theme, but it's like, you know, it's kind of what the sky theme's supposed to be, I guess. But that just shows how unique it is compared to the other ones. You wouldn't really see that normally looking at it, but when you compare it in that type of way, yeah, you can definitely see it. And another thing this game's got going for it is the power-ups. You probably picked up on it from a few of the statements I said earlier, but I really do love power-ups in Mario games. For me, I feel like the right kind of power-up can make or break the game. Maybe not in its entirety, but it can definitely like really help it out. And this game's got plenty of power-ups and fun power-ups that you can utilize, like the cat suit, probably like the most versatile item that Mario's ever picked up besides the cape feather. It can climb walls, it can do a cat scratch, it can slide you forwards, it can walk on fours, which helps you get into smaller areas where you normally would have to be a smaller guy or just like slowly roll through as a bigger Mario. No, now you can have your power up, you can be protected and still get through that little space that you need to. They also got powers like the double cherry, which can't be carried around with you, but it's still fun to use regardless. Can be a little chaotic and hard to control them all. The Mega Mushroom even makes a return. It's not in many stages and it's not as powerful and destructive as in New Super Mario Bros. DS, but it's still good to see here nonetheless. The game even has Bowser's Furies tacked onto it now, so it's even more expansive than it was before. Now, you probably think I should rate that game differently than New Super Mario 3D World, but it's literally just an extra game mode. Like, the game can't be purchased on its own, so it doesn't make much sense to me to separate the two. But if I did, I'd probably put Bowser's Fury just one spot under Super Mario 3D World. Bowser's Fury uses the same physics as Super Mario 3D World as you would probably expect. I mean, it's on the same game cartridge. But the key difference is that Bowser's Fury is an open world game. They're all extra playable characters, and you have to deal with Bowser a lot more. To be fair, Bowser's Fury is probably more different from Mario 3D World. The new Super Mario Bros. Series are different from each other. So in that regard, maybe I should rank it separately and not let it amplify how I already feel about the game. But like I said, it is on the same game chip and it can't be bought separately. Even if I did rank this game by itself, I still think I would put it at the number 2 spot. The Bowser's Fury mode kind of just like holds it tightly in that spot, like holds it there more than it would be on its own. So if a future Mario game comes along, you know, it's not going to be taken down so easily. But there is a game that I didn't talk about that you can probably guess, since it hasn't been on the list yet, that has been at the number 1 spot for a really long time. That number 1 spot is Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2. But you won't be seeing footage for that because I don't have the game. But it's here alongside with its predecessor. Now, my justification for putting these in the same spot whereas Mario 64 and Mario 64 DS got their own separate spot. I can't actually choose between these two. The first Mario Galaxy has the better hub world and the better story due to, Rosalina's storybook. But I'd say Super Mario Galaxy 2 has better power-ups and also Yoshi. So they both have a little edge over each other in some regards. But both of them have really great stages. They're really unique, really fun, very amazing. Like, the stages are just everything. Basically, every single galaxy in these games, minus the ones that have like singular stars in them. You only going for like one specific star and they're like very small. Like a one gimmick planet. I feel like those ones can be on the like bad side or like not very good. But other than that, like every other galaxy's fun to go to. These games to me are still like the greatest, most grandest adventure Mario has ever went on. Like, he went through space, he went through multiple galaxies, he went through so many different environments, so many different areas, explored so many different undiscovered territories, and met like lots of different species. And I think the story is the best from any main series Mario game, specifically just because of how grand the adventure is. And the music accompanied with this game is probably the greatest Mario soundtrack I've ever listened to. Like, I haven't said anything about the music in any of these other games on the top 10 list. They're all great musics, but none of them come close to Mario Galaxy. Like, it's just, like I said, so grand. Like, the music is grand, the stages, the environment, everything is so grand. And it's just a grand adventure. Everything comes together to make this unique, special experience. I'm having a hard time trying to explain how great these games are that I'm going to remember probably for the rest of my life. It gave me an experience in my childhood. And just looking back on the games and remembering those feelings I felt while playing it is just something the other games just can't match. And it'll be very hard for another Mario game to match what these two games have given me, the feeling that these games have given me. So there you have it, my top 10 favorite Mario games. For now. Obviously, there's going to be more Mario games in the future, and I'm going to be excited to play them, and maybe one of those can be on the list and just knock another one down. That would be a good thing. It's good for Mario games to keep progressing and getting better and finding more ideas, more ways to be enjoyable. And I'm curious to see if Nintendo will make a new Mario game that can top Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 for me. It would have to be quite an amazing Mario game. It would have to have somewhat of a story, multiple playable characters, awesome power-ups, amazing stages, and give me a special feeling that can't really be felt anywhere else. I'm really curious. Will that happen? Only time will tell.